Everybody, Jhaji briefly introduced about myself. I mean, I don't know about the brilliancy, etc., etc. But yeah, I am also trying to earning my bread and butter from IT. I am MTech in software engineering by degree, by profession. I am associate director and currently associated with CDAC Kolkata. My address is here. You know, I am not a good speaker, number one. And number two, neither I am a professor, so I am not conversant with this kind of delivery of lecture. One major drawback what I could find out from this kind of presentation is missing of non-verbal communication. The eye contact is not there, so I cannot read your face such that I can modulate the presentation runtime. Anyway, I'll try to cover it from very simple terminologies from known to unknown kind of thing because the audience is heterogeneous, and I am expecting few experts are also there. Experts may be little bit demoralized with the presentation because almost I will not cover the entire in-depth knowledge about AIML. And to understand something about AIML, you have to know little bit mathematics. I mean, I am not going to touch that mathematics in depth. Only 2-3 concepts are there. One is little bit differentiation. Anyway, I will give you the formula. Another one component is matrix multiplication and finding out eigenvector kind of thing. Those part I will explain it and I will share the presentation also. You can have a look at it. If you have any doubt, later also you can communicate with me. My email ID is there. And during this session, if there is any problem, you just raise your hand such that I can stop and I can answer your question if I know that. Correct? So let me proceed with the presentation. Is it okay? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So I could proceed, right? So objective, intentionally I kept the objective like this. At the very beginning, I will try to tell you what is artificial intelligence. We are, everybody is aware of it. Today, it's a buzzword. Everybody is listening this artificial intelligence word at least. And then second thing is present status of AI. Why AI? Why should we do something in the area of artificial intelligence? Is it really, something of important or it's a day-do kind of thing? Then third point is I will try to explain different terminologies associated with artificial intelligence. You know, whenever we are listening something about artificial intelligence, you will listen few words like AI, ML, CNN, ANN, backpropagation, and so many jargons. So what are those jargons actually? How they are going to help us to implement something which will really help us to do our business? And then applications of AIML for agriculture, obviously this will be your interest. I will give you the link and reference of few AIML applications, not only in India, throughout the world, such that you can find it out and you can mimic that kind of solution, which will be really useful at your area. And then I will explain at least one application in depth using MCDM and backpropagation, and then I will leave the session to you for some question answer. So, what is artificial intelligence? Is there any clear-cut definition? Artificial, generally, intelligence means whether I can listen to you, I can understand your thing, and I can respond to whatever you are asking for. Similarly, in computer science, the term AI refers to any human-like intelligence. Any human-like intelligence. It may be a robot, or it may be some, piece of, IoT kind of arrangement. It may be a software solution, whatever may be, but it should show the human-like intelligence. And ability wise, it could able to learn from examples and experience. It could do some sort of object recognition, maybe pattern recognition, maybe face recognition, maybe image recognition, anything. Understanding and responding to language, whatever you are asking, it should listen to you, it should understood your question and answer you properly. Make some decision as we used to take a decision in runtime mode also. So they should have that kind of capacity. Solving problem, whenever there is a mathematical problem given to us, we can solve it based on our understanding, based on our past experience, etc. So similar kind of arrangement should be there, and combining all those, and not limited to those, but combining all those, if it could show the intelligence, human like intelligence, in that case probably it's something about artificial intelligence. Say, for example, nowadays, what you can do during whenever you are sending one message on WhatsApp, instead of typing something, you can say something. Your system will understand. Your system will type it on behalf of you. Even you may, I don't know whether you experience it or not, chatbot kind of arrangement where nobody is sitting there, but you can chat with the machine itself. So if it's a known kind of arrangement, it will answer you properly. If it's a difficult question where answer is not available with them, probably they will forward it to the human resource available there. Whenever you are typing something, you typed it wrongly, but automatically it will get corrected. So that kind of intelligence is already every day we are facing. Those are not extensively, I can say, artificial intelligence, but those are the stepping stone for artificial intelligence. Now, few definition. Let me cover it quickly. The study of computer science that attempt to model and apply the intelligence of human mind. Second thing, a branch of computer science dealing with the simulation of intelligent behavior in computers. Simulation. You just I make it bold because you have to remember this word, simulation. Now, in third definition, the capability of machine to imitate intelligent human behavior. That is also important. Imitate. So just like a baby, initially probably they could identify two types of object. One is, moving object. One is a static object. Later, after they learn from the system, they imitate something from the senior or persons available with them, and they could understand this is a living, this is a non-living item. Then probably out of that living and non-living, they could classify them into different objects, etc. So just like that, your machine will be able to imitate it. They can learn from the system and they could show the intelligence of its own. Artificial intelligence enables computers and machine to mimic the perception, learning, problem solving, and decision making capabilities of human mind. So that's why it's a artificial intelligence, not the direct intelligence, but it's artificial intelligence. Now, why should we study artificial intelligence? Is it a really useful thing? I'm showing you some report. It's a report generated by Stanford. I collected from the internet. Uh, so see the R&D status, because few of the in the audience probably some of the professors and students are also there. For them, this is important. See the trend in R&D status. First graph is showing attendance at large conferences from 2010 to 2020. So it increased like anything. And second graph is showing the number of journal publications starting from 2000 to 2020. Once again, see the number increased. Acceleration is almost, it's monotonously increased. And in 2020, it's a quick jump also. So this is the R&D status. Now, technical performance wise, initially when the artificial intelligence gets rolling, at that point of time, the accuracy of the system was a bit doubtful. Now, every day they are improving their algorithm, something is adding. So as a result, percentage of problems solved from 1997 to 2020 is again, see the acceleration. And second point is the benchmark. Benchmark in terms of accuracy. If we really want to benchmark it, then we will probably compare the human intelligence and artificial intelligence. So from that point of time, the system presently we are developing are very good, and accuracy level is very high. Say for example, face recognition, probably everybody is knowing it. Now even face recognition can be used, although it's a soft biometric kind of thing, but face recognition can be used for any kind of attendance management system even. So accuracy level is 97.6% or more, and that's why we can make use of it for attendance management system, right? Now this is the economical growth. See the investment from the private organization, they are funding starting from 2015 to 2020, you can show the incremental funding in this domain. So when they are funding like this, so they are trusting the system. They have the idea that it will grow up. And this is the education and employment point of view. So this is important for the students and the professors available in this forum. Number of undergraduate courses that teaches students the skills. It increased starting from 2016-17 to 19-20. And nowadays, if you see the trend that the students of AI are getting jobs in the area of industry. That means industry is also growing in this domain. So these are few overview of the present status of artificial intelligence. Now, why this growth? See, first point is very important. The surge in AI development is made possible by the sudden availability of large amounts of data. In the next session, I am going to say something about big data analytics. In fact, artificial intelligence and data management cannot be separate domain. Data management is a must for artificial intelligence, and big data analytics is not a separate entity in that way. So I will cover it in the second session, but you just point it out, large amount of availability of large amount of data and quick processing of data is a crucial factor for successful implementation of artificial intelligence. The second point is corresponding development. At the same time, huge amount of data is not sufficient. At the same time, management of data and processing of data and that kind of tools and techniques are also important. Wide availability of computer system that can process all that data faster, more accurately. Why this kind of wide availability of computer is important, I will cover it in the next session during big data analytics session. So few terminologies, as I mentioned, during this session, I am going to cover few terminologies which are very common, like weak AI, strong AI. What are the differences between those two? Artificial intelligence and machine learning. What are those and how it is different? Machine learning and deep learning. Once again, similarly, back propagation, etc. I will going to cover. Now, from this point of time, types of artificial intelligence. One is weak AI, which is named as narrow AI or artificial narrow intelligence ANI. So all are similar. Weak AI, narrow AI, and artificial narrow intelligence ANI are same. It's basically trained and focused to perform specific tasks. Let me reiterate. It's intended to train and focus to perform a specific task. Most of the AI solution presently available around us are of this type. So it can perform a very specific task. As a human being, I can give a presentation, I can be a part of the audience, I can do something, I can do marketing, I can do so many things. But here, this kind of model can perform a very specific task. Left two are both a strong AI. Strong AI, one is called AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, and second one is Artificial Super Intelligence, ASI. Little bit difference is there, I am telling you. Strong AI even more fully replicates the autonomy of human brain. That means it can do more than one activities of its own. It can solve heterogeneous types of problems and sometimes can choose the problem without any human intervention. All time it's not true. Someone is giving me a problem and I am trying to solving it. I can identify the problem also. I can select the forte and accordingly I can attempt some problem. And yes, ASI is superior to human intelligence. It will be more than human intelligence, which is presently not available. We can aspire for this thing. I don't know whether it will be a reality or not. But anyway, presently we are at this part, weak AI, moving towards strong AI, and strong AI means AGI only. And later we can think of ASI. Correct? And three terminologies: artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. From this graphical notation, you can really understood artificial intelligence is the basically superset. Machine learning is a part of it, and deep learning once again is a subset of it. I mean, how they are different? What are the boundary of deep learning? What is the boundary of machine learning? That I am going to explain. Well, is there any question or should I continue? Let me continue. If you have any doubt, you just note it down. At the end, you can raise your question. See, in this slide, on top, this is a neuron. artificial intelligence is nothing but it's mimicking the human intelligence. So how human being is actually processing everything, that kind of similar kind of arrangement can be made available in the computerized system also. So on top, this is neuron where these dendrites are basically collecting inputs. Nucleus or cell body is there, which is responsible for processing it in its own way. And this axon will carry forward the information to the next layer. And axon terminals are basically delivering the output to the next layer. So similar kind of one arrangement is there in artificial intelligence. This is called perceptron. In perceptron, see, these are the inputs in one, into, and in one, into, in n. So these are the inputs to the model. Now this sigma, I will explain it, is basically a sigmoid function or mathematical function. One bias will be added, and this is the output. Output will be forwarded to the next layer, and next layer will process it. Perceptron, as I mentioned, perceptron is artificial neuron, you can say. So perceptron is nothing but a process or a module which will take input from more than one resources and process it, and there will be only one output. So what kind of function it could be? See, in the right side, I have mentioned one step function. Step function means, I mean, decision will be only two. There will be one threshold. If it's beyond threshold, in that case, value will be 1. If it's below that threshold, in that case, we can treat it as a 0. One example is also given here. Say x1, x2 up to xn produces a signal to the output. So what will happen? Simply in this function, we will sum up everything. That means wi xi, summation of wi xi. What is wi? Wi is the weight. So xi is the input, wi is the weight for this path. So xi, that means input multiplied by the weight, will be summed up. And if the value is above threshold, in that case, we will treat the output as 1. If it's below threshold, in that case, we will treat it as 0. So this kind of decision making mechanism will be there. It's called a perceptron. Instead of step function, we can make use of another kind of function. Step function means if we change the weight little bit, in that case, there is a high chance one value, output value, can change directly from 0 to 1. That means huge jump. So to avoid this kind of arrangement, for slow change in the output, depending on the change in weight, we can make use of a different function. It's named as sigmoid function. Sigmoid neuron looks like this. In that case, sigmoid function, you try to make it understood. What is sigmoid function? I am not going to explain. Mathematical function where sigma z is equals to 1 by 1 plus e to the power minus z. That means if z is the input, output will be 1 by 1 plus e to the power minus z. And the curve will looks like this. So there will be no drastic change like step function 0 and 1. There will be change will be very slow. So you can adjust your weight and you can get better output in terms of what is you are expecting from the system. Now another one terminology, back propagation. That is also important. What is back propagation? So back propagation is, first of all, whenever we are giving some input multiplied by weight, and that will be forwarded to the next layer. This is called feed forward mechanism. Feed forward. That means whatever feed we are giving, it will be forwarded to the next layer. Okay, I am coming back to this one. See, this is one basic neural network. Have a look at it. This is called input layer. First layer is input layer. Second layer is hidden layer. Third one is output layer. So what exactly this net is doing? All the round shaped objects are perceptron, as I explained. So in the input layer, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 perceptron are there, and input may be 5 or more than 5 also. Let us assume the 5 inputs are there. First input is forwarded to the first perceptron, second input is forwarded to the second perceptron, and so on so forth. Now this perceptron means it's a function, maybe a sigmoid function which will be applied on the input. Now this output of this input layer will be forwarded to all perceptron in the hidden layer. Obviously there will be different weight. If I really want to disconnect, say, communication between first perceptron of the input layer to the first perceptron of hidden layer, in that case we will put the weight 0. That means this link will be automatically disconnected. So this is the neural network where our input will be forwarded to the output layer, maybe via hidden layer, one or more than one hidden layer. That's why this mechanism called feed forward. Now, feed forward is not good enough. Initially, somehow we have to assume that this will be the weight. Weight is anticipated based on our past experience, but that may not be correct. Later, we have to adjust the weight and bias. Bias is another one term. I'm coming to that. Weight and bias we have to adjust such that we can get the desired output. Say, for example, if this network, this neural network is responsible for object identification, and you know there are three objects only: one mobile, say one computer, another one is a pen. Three objects we have to identify. So in the input, they can give everything. Say, for example, I mean, you can give an input of human being, a snap of a human being also. This network can identify only three types of object. So somehow it will classify all the inputs into three. That means if we give human, I mean, picture of a human as input, that will be somehow classified into something. Maybe human will be identified as a computer, or human may be identified as a pen, etc. So that is not correct. Similarly, another one thing can happen in the input. You can give the input image of a pen, which will be wrongly interpreted as computer. That is also possible. So for the first type of error, when human being has been identified as a computer or pen, that is beyond our control, because we assume that in the output layers only three classes will be there. But if a computer, a picture of a pen or computer is identified as something else, in that case our model is not correct. That means there is some error at the end. So somehow we have to adjust that error. How we can adjust that error? Based on that error, actually we have to minimize the error. Our intention is to get pen, but we got a computer. So somehow we have to minimize that error. To minimize that error, we can put that error budget to the previous layer, and we can adjust the weight. So in this way, we can adjust the weight at this layer. That means in between hidden and output layer. Similarly, in between hidden and input layer, to get the correct model based on what? At least we can get the correct classification at the end. Obviously, it is clear that there will be some mathematics how we can adjust it. I am coming to the mathematics briefly. It's a partial derivative kind of thing. I will explain it. And second thing is, if your training data set is erroneous, data set is not complete. Say, for example, you would like to identify computer pen and another one, say, book or something, but in your input, there is no picture of computer from the very beginning. Your training set is incomplete. In that case, your back propagation or anything will not do, because your model will be incomplete. Training set is incomplete, and that's why it will be incomplete. Well, going back to the previous one. See, here it is clear in the perceptron x1, x2, xn are the inputs. Weights already defined as w1, w2 to wn, and we applied one function, maybe sigmoid function, so which will give you the output. At the end, I have written TSAC. This is the total error. Total sum squared error is summation of desired minus actual square. What is this? I am explaining. Say, for example, your input in your training set already you defined your input is say 0.05, 0.10, 0.09, and that kind of thing. And you are expecting two output. One is 0.01 and another one is 0.33, and only one hidden layer is there. So weight are already defined: W1, W2, W3, W4, etc. And this calculation mechanism H this calculation mechanism, I have not put it here. Actually, in the perceptron, there are two components. One part of the perceptron is, gathering the input from the previous layer, and second point is it is transforming it to make it ready for the next layer. First part, if your inputs are x1, x2, x3, x4, x5, and the weights are already defined as w1, w2, w3, w4, etc. In that case, net w1, that is input at this layer, is summation of w1 wi xi plus b1. B1 is anything you can put. It's a bias basically. You know, uh, if suppose your output value is 0.01 and you would like to normalize that output, in that case your bias is basically important factor. So initially let us take a bias of 0.33 for the first layer and 0.60 for the second layer, right? So that kind of bias you can define. So what will happen for this perceptron? All inputs coming to this perceptron will be interpreted as summation of wi xi plus bi, right? And this output, now this is the input to this perceptron, and what will be the output? Already I mentioned, in the perceptron some function will be implemented. Let us assume one sigmoid function is already implemented. That means the output will be, if the collected input is z, in that case output will be 1 by 1 plus e to the power minus z. So in that way, up to this layer, everything will be forwarded. And at the end layer, what we'll get? At the end layer, we will get the result of this calculation. But this is a training set. That means input and output is predefined. So our desired output probably is, say, for example, 0.00. But what we got from this model is 0.01. So it's clear what is the error. 0.01 minus 0.00. Our intention to make the error negligible. Best is 0, but if it's not possible, at least we should like to make it negligible. So in that case, what will happen? I will get some error budget here. In output 3 perceptron, will get 3 error. So you can sum those error. That is the TSSE, as I mentioned. TSSE means half of summation of desired minus actual. Desired means the, as per the training set, what is the desired output? That is the desired, and actual means what exactly we are getting from the model. So in this way, we can get the error. Now from this error, we have to adjust the W1. How we can adjust the W1? There is a partial derivative mechanism. I will share that component, but let me tell you, it's nothing but total error. Somehow this total error, derivative of the total error in terms of W5. If we assume that this is W5, because we have to adjust this W5 first, right? So how we can get derivative of E total? E total means error total by D of W5. In partial derivative, it can be represented as E total with respect to E out. Out means the output part of the perceptron into this output with respect to derivative of the output with respect to the net. That means the collected, gathered information. And third is into this gathered information in terms of weight. That means D of E total by D of W5 is equals to D of E total by D of out 01 into D of out 01 by D of net 01 into D of net 01 by D of W5. And although this terminology seems to be a bit difficult, but actually it's not. Derivative of E total with respect to E out. E out means the sigmoid value, and error budget already we get. So this derivative, this partial derivative means this is basically subtraction of exact out minus the targeted out. Now next part is D out with respect to D net. That means out is this part into 1 minus out. And third one, D net divided by D5. That means out of H1. What is out of H1? This is the hidden layer 1. This output is directly forwarding to this one. So this output of H1 is basically D net by D5. So multiplying those three, we can get the exact adjustment value of the W1. Similarly, all the weight will be adjusted, and then the next layer. So if the number of layer is more, in that case complication will be more. If the numbers, data set is huge, in that case processing time will be huge. If the data set is complete, in that case model will be more accurate. So this is the basic neural network. That means already I covered two parts. One is how backpropagation will do, and what is the basic neural network, right? And what is deep neural network? Deep neural network, as I said, it is a subset of basic neural network. And here the plus point is the model will be much more accurate. Say for example, if we give the any image in the input, and at the output, the object, not only object, the face will be identified, and the output will say that this person is Dr. B.K. Jha, this person is Ritesh, blah blah. That means this model will learn by himself. Automatically it will tuned up, and at the end this model will get corrected to give you the correct result. So this is next point, what is known as deep neural network, where the number of hidden layers will be more. And exactly if you want to understand what kind of function is there in this perceptron or in this perceptron, how many hidden layers will be there, that kind of questions can come into your mind. But actually those are not answerable at this point of time. You can study so many explanations are there in the internet, but no clear-cut idea about how many hidden layers will be there to make the model perfect, or what will be the number of data which will give you the, at least one assumption your model is accurate. So artificial intelligence application, up to this much was the terminologies related part. If you have any doubt, you can note it down. Later I will explain if you want to learn about. So artificial intelligence, in terms of artificial intelligence, these are the few terminologies where and few areas where this new artificial intelligence can be applied. Neural networks, planning, any kind of planning, machine learning, natural language processing, cognitive services, knowledge, perception, robotics, etc. Now coming to the few applications, which is related to agriculture, and AI/ML is somehow applied on top of it. First part is, you can see this is one Indian projects or products or solution, one MOU done between Government of India and IBM, where this artificial intelligence will be applied to secure the farming capabilities of Indian farmers. The pilot study will be conducted in the state of Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, and Maharashtra. And see, IBM Watson, this is IBM's proprietary thing. This IBM Watson decision platform will be applied to provide a farm level solution for improving the agriculture sector. And the intended areas are weather forecast and soil moisture, better management of water, soil and crop. So this is one of the initiatives in India related to AI. Second one is another one MOU between Government of Karnataka with Microsoft. Same thing, in this case, multivariate agricultural commodity price forecasting model will be created by Microsoft, and obviously the data set will be provided by the Karnataka government, and the output will be initially tested over there. So for this multivariate agricultural commodity price forecasting, they are considering few parameters: sowing area, production time, yielding time, weather data sets, and other relevant data sets. What is multivariate agricultural commodity price forecasting model? Basically, what is multivariate? That I will explain. Actually, we are also, so BK Jha, myself is connected with another one project where we are also planning to do similar kind of thing. That is multi-criteria based decision making. I will explain it in depth. This is another one project, Maha Agri Tech project. You know better than me. This is also location specific advisories to the farmers can be given from here. This is another one Indian initiative. Now, worldwide initiative. These are very interesting. Most of the initiatives are already successfully implemented. So what we can do, at least we can mimic this kind of ideas in Indian scenario if it's really applicable to us. See, first part, Aware, and URL is also given. I will share the slides with you. Aware provides agricultural information and insight to farmers, growers globally. This is providing the different kind of services. Example is AG weather and real-time and historical data on weather variables and agronomics. Few other information is also there. I am not going to cover it. You can, browse this URL and can get detailed information about it if it's of your interest. Blue River Technology, another one technology. In this case, their mission is to create intelligent machinery that solves monumental challenges for our customer. What they are doing, they are helping precision farming kind of thing. Blue River Technology is basically see and spray machine, use computer vision and machine learning. So they will spray on a specific area and automatically based on image processing kind of thing, they are learning whether this is the correct area where they could spray something on to remove the your pest, remove some what is called herbs. Next one is Connectera. URL is there. They are also applying artificial intelligence. Actually, they are applying TensorFlow. These are the terminology you should know these terminologies. TensorFlow is another one machine learning model which is developed by Google. So it collect data about the behavior of cows and help farmers learn about their herds, health, habits, and life. So it's related to livestock. Eco Promise, another one initiative. In this Eco Promise, ecological productivity management information is their intention. I really don't know much about this, but it's a decision support system. You can browse through it. They are applying AIML to take some decision on productivity management. FarmWeb. This is another one initiative. So in this case, this AI data models help farmers to make crucial decision to maintain and preserve their farms. Again, related to livestock. Hello Tractor, it's an interesting initiative. It's some kind of artificial intelligence along with IoT is applied here. It's powered by IBM, and for monetary part, transactional part, blockchain technology is there. So it's basically improve farmer access to smarter and better maintained and more profitable tractors. And this initiative is in Nigeria. Hard dog. Once again, it helps the farmer to maintain their herd and basically livestock management based on AIML. PBI, picture-based insurance. This is not available in India, as per my knowledge. It's very good. It can take picture. It's not only satellite imagery, but some other technique is also there. They could take those image and based on that, they can settle the insurance claim. They can estimate the insurance value. So this kind of thing can be done using automatic object identification mechanism with the help of image processing and artificial intelligence. Now, one interesting term is there. It's called CNN, convolutional neural network. They are basically applying to CNN, which is the improved version of any neural network, you can say. Plantix, it's a plant doctor. Once again, the very interesting thing from mobile, you can collect the snap of the crop. This Plantix app will analyze it, and based on that, it will suggest some, just like any doctor or any consultant, it will suggest you the proper action you have to take. Plant Village Naru, another one initiative for identifying crop diseases and suggesting the actual remedial measures. Smart AG, this is also for operating smart devices like smart tractor, etc. Terranis, this is also addresses the crop loss due to insect, crop disease, weeds, and nutrient. In that case, it's not picture based, but they are somehow processing the data or historical data along with weather information and providing some information to the farmer to manage their crop in a better way. TERA-I, this is human caused land cover changes across the world. This is the intention. I don't know whether this will be applicable in India or not, but it's a good thing they are taking this initiative to raise alarm from environmental point of view, and they are also applying AI/ML and predicting what is going to happen in near future. Well, now coming to our project, as I told you, we are also trying to do something in using multi-criteria based decision making. Directly, you can say it's a AI/ML. It's called AHP, Analytical Hierarchical Processing. But if you integrate back propagation along with AHP, it will be really one AGI kind of thing. In this initiative, our target is to take minimum input from the farmer and with some historical information or with some say predicted information, we will try to give them some advisory. Say for example, one input is basically crop, where crop, situation, mode of seedling, duration, variety, etc. They can select that this is the hierarchy. This is one input. Another one input is date of sowing. That is important to take a decision. And we can suggest in which area, that is also input we are expecting from the farmer, like field preparation, sowing, fertilizer management, water management, etc. And last one, to get the idea about soil condition, etc. District, block, and village panchayat, this kind of input is necessary. And this input will help us to get micro level weather forecast, which is I mean system which is already implemented at BIRSA, Jharkhand. And one weather forecast application is also available in Google Play Store to get micro level weather forecast that can predict weather forecast of 14 parameters, which is crucial for agriculture up to village panchayat level. Anyway, after getting this kind of 4 input, we will do something, and at the end we will provide the advisory to the farmer. So what I said, we will do something. I am going to explain what is that. Do something means what, how we can process it. So this is a fictitious example. Suppose it's an example with car. Anyway, if you would like to purchase a car or mobile or anything, how you can purchase? If someone asks you which mobile is, I would like to purchase a mobile, or which is the best model, how you will suggest? Probably you will ask a few questions like what is your budget, and sorry for the interruption. What is your budget? So what is your choice? Somebody will prefer the camera. If the camera pixel is higher, in that case, they will prefer it. Someone may prefer the internal memory. Someone will prefer a particular brand. Someone will prefer the value. Someone will prefer the warranty and availability of the store. So that kind of so many factors are there. All the factors, if you think all the factors are not measurable also, sometimes it may be a perception based. So how we can gather those information manually we can do. We can give some priority to, say, for example, priority to camera over memory. In that way, you can manage. But if we really expect that kind of intelligence from the machine, in that case, how machine could process it and give us a concrete result? Say, in this example, our target is to select a new car. We would like to purchase a new car. And criteria is style, reliability, and fuel economy. For the timing, let us assume 3 criteria is there: style, reliability, and fuel economy. Out of this, you can see fuel economy is really measurable, but style and reliability, those are perception based. So combining this perception based thing along with the measurable parameter, how we can find out which one is the best car, best model to purchase. And our alternatives are, say, for example, A, B, C, and D. So hierarchical tree, initially put it in a hierarchical tree. Ultimate objective is this one: select a new car. And the criteria are style, reliability, and fuel economy, right? and we have the alternatives A, B, C, D. This is the problem definition. I think it is clear to you. Now, initially, reliability and style, these two parameters are perception based. We cannot measure it. So somehow we have to understand what is the important factor for selecting criteria for selection of a car. Say, for example, initially, this will be adjusted. This is just like weight, as we mentioned in perceptual point. Say, for example, initial perception is reliability is 2 times more important as style for me, right? Similarly, style is 3 times more important than fuel economy, and reliability is 4 times as important as fuel economy. These 2, 3, 4, these values are almost empirical based on my past experience or based on my perception. I am telling reliability is 2 times more important than style, etc. So after getting those figures, we'll put it in a matrix. So this matrix is basically pairwise for pairwise comparison. Style, reliability, and fuel economy. Here also style, reliability, fuel economy. See, as we mentioned, style with respect to style is 1 by 1. Style with respect to reliability is 1 by 2. Already we mentioned. Style with respect to fuel economy is 3. Okay. So in this way, we will get a matrix first of all. After getting this matrix, style, reliability, and fuel economy, let us remove the header. So it will be a clear matrix 1 by 1, 1 by 2, 3 by 1, 2 by 1, 1 by 1, 4 by 1, etc. This matrix will be converted into a floating point number. We are assuming it will be up to 4 decimal point. We will take the value up to 4 decimal point. So first point is 1.0000, second point is 0.5000, etc. Now we have to calculate the eigenvector. A little bit matrix multiplication and little bit knowledge of matrix is a must. But let us assume, I would like to explain it. It's not that much difficult thing. First one is a matrix and second one is another one matrix. When we used to do matrix multiplication, the row of the first matrix will be multiplied with the column of the second matrix, and the summation of those value will be put here. Say, in this case, 1 into 1 equals to 1, 0.5 into 2 plus 3 into 0.333. If we sum up, in that case, the value will be 3. Similarly, for the second one, first row, second column, value will be put here. First row, third column, summation value will be here. So this is another one matrix. We got it by multiplying two matrix. Now, finding out the eigenvector. It's nothing but summing up. All the row values are summed up and put here. So 12.7500, similarly 22.3332. Now, the next task is normalizing those values. How we can normalize? Simply, this entire column will be, summation of the entire column is 39.9165. We will divide each row value by this total and we'll get the normalized value like 0.319417, etc. So this is the target starting from our pairwise comparison matrix. Now, what we'll do, we will not stop here. Whether this is good enough or not, how we can understand? We will go to the next layer, next layer, and next layer. When there will be no change in this matrix values, in that case, we will stop there. So next time, what we'll do, we will take this output matrix as an input matrix and we will do the same thing. So in the next layer, 3.000, see this is the output matrix 3.000. So we will take it and multiply the same. We will get another one matrix. We will try to get the eigenvector normalization, and the normalized value is this. Now the third layer. Once again, we will start with this matrix, which is usually taken as input, and after processing in the similar fashion, we will get this as the output. So see, in first processing, the values of this matrix are 0.3194 something. In the second iteration, it becomes 0.3196, 0.5584, 0.1220. In third iteration also, it's 0.3196, 5584, 0.1220. So we can stop our iteration here because the values are not changing. And this is the final output, right? So now relative ranking of our criteria, what we got? Style. If we take it as weight for style, then weight for style will be 0.3196. It is not really dependent on anything. Independently, we can take this as weight for style. For reliability also, we can take this as an weight. For fuel economy, this is the weight. So now our hierarchy becomes like this. Now, how we can select the best car, which will be best fit for our requirement as per our empirical values or weight. Now see the alternatives. Once again, in the similar way, A, B, C, D are the alternatives. Obviously, we have some preference. So A over A is 1 by 1, A over B is 1 by 4, etc. And after doing similar thing as already we did, we will get this kind of arrangement where weight of A will be 0.1160, weight for B will be 0.2470, weight for C will be 0.0600, and weight for D is 0.5770. Right. So, and for the fuel economy, so 3 point. One is style alternatives. With respect to style, this is the ultimate output for the alternatives. From reliability point of view, this is the output in terms of alternatives and their weights. From fuel economy, we did not to do this because fuel is measurable, miles per gallon or something. And at the end, after normalizing this thing, we need not to do any kind of matrix multiplication because pairwise comparison is not there. It's a direct value, it's measurable. So directly we can get this kind of matrix. So three things we got. From style point of view, weight for different alternatives are this. For reliability point of view, alternatives weight are like this. And from fuel economy point of view, weight of alternatives are this. So putting them together, we will get this kind of hierarchical tree where you can select a car where the style, weight of style is this, weight of reliability is this, weight of fuel economy is this, and weight of alternatives A, B, C, D in terms of style are written here. Alternatives, weight of alternatives A, B, C, D in terms of reliability are written here. Weight of weight of alternatives in terms of fuel economy are also noted here. So now the final solution. Style, reliability, fuel economy, and A, B, C, D. So this kind of matrix we will get. Now criteria ranking, that is also predefined. Criteria ranking is means this one 0.3196, 0.5584, and 0.1220. This part is weight of A, B, C, D alternatives in terms of style, in terms of reliability, in terms of fuel economy. And in the right side matrix is criteria ranking, which we got from the iterations with respect to style, reliability, and fuel economy. So if we multiply them, once again, this is a matrix multiplication, row into column. That means this row R11 with C11, R12 with C12, C21, and R13 with C31. We will get a direct values of A, B, C, D. Now it is clear from this matrix what is the selection criteria for A, B, and C, D. So we can see the weight for D is 0.3280. So obviously the final selection should be D. Now with sufficient training set, with application of back propagation, what we can get? I can get a perfect model where we can give any unknown input and we can get a correct output. Just like any human being, from perception and from historical information, it will at least give you a hint that this car is best fit for you. In our solution in AI for agriculture, these 4 criteria, as we said, one is the selection of particular crop, its duration, variety, situation, etc. Second one is district, block, and village panchayat. Based on that, we can get 14 weather parameters, which is really useful for this agricultural component. Third one is date of sowing, and fourth one is the field where actually they are expecting some decision from the system. We are planning to create similar kind of one model, and that model will be available to give you a decision. So if not necessary, all the time you have to provide all information, but you can give only 4 input, and the model will give you the perfect advisory, which will be more accurate. Reliability and accuracy will depends on training set and test set that we will do. This is our intention for this solution. Now that's all about AIML and one model and some few terminologies. Now I would like to listen from you. If you have any question or any clarification, anything, in that case I can tell you about that.
You stop your presentation and come with your video, Ritesh ji, and have
Okay, fine. Nadia, I stopped my sharing.
Okay. You come with your video. Participants are requested to have some interaction because it may be of a topic of your interest. Please do have some interaction. He cited simple example, gave you so many references, and explained the things very well.
Now, those few terminologies are very important because, when I started doing something in this area, I am a software developer, but AIML is a new thing for me. So when we started AIML, that time it was really confusing. So many jargon, so many terminologies, and they are also using it interchangeably. So
your video is not coming, Ritesh ji. Come with your video.
Okay. Now it's visible?
No.
Not visible.
Start video.
Start,
Allow your camera, because I think your camera is not functioning.
Video is not coming still now.
Yeah, it's still not coming. So participants, please do have some interaction, raise some query. Yeah, now it's coming.
Okay, fine.
So participants.
Sir, actually, this artificial intelligence, the terminologies which sir has mentioned, since this is for most of us, I suppose this is in-depth focus on the mechanisms of artificial is for the first time. So I felt it very informative, and particularly with the terminologies and those mechanisms, theoretical part, but of course the mathematical term, it will perhaps mathematical aspect was a little difficult. But I felt that the way with simple examples sir has presented, it was really informative, and it was a good exposure, at least to me, sir. Thank you very much. I don't have much query in here, but it was really informative. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Lima ma'am. Actually, I tried, this is the audience is heterogeneous, and that's why I tried to explain it in that way. Mathematical terminologies are there. AIML cannot exist without mathematics. See, if I want to explain sigmoid function, it will take huge amount of time and it's not very easy to understand.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Even the
I felt
derivative,
that's why, sir,
partial derivative.
that's why
Partial
it
derivative is
calls
also
for
difficult.
expert. Yes, sir.
If
Yes,
the
sir.
person is really interested on AIML and grow up in this area, in that case, somehow they have to learn those mathematical part and they can start studying. If necessary, they can communicate with me. I will help them to grow up. I will share some resources from where they can get those information.
So do you have any data like how much in agriculture sector, how much adoption, like how much application is there? AI application is like, can you in percentage or something in agriculture sector, how much is applied till now in India?
Ma'am, I have given some examples. Those are
Yes,
worldwide
yes, yes.
example where
Yes,
this
yes.
AIML is applied. In
Mhm.
India, it's not that much. And that's
Okay.
why the plus is there. You can contribute in the area of AIML because India is trying to grow up in AIML. And all
Yes,
those
yes.
examples are already there. At least you can mimic some of the application in Indian scenario if it's really useful.
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Jhaji,
Yes, yeah.
uh,
Dipti. I'm requesting Dr. Dipti. Dr. Dipti.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
So,
ask
yes, sir.
something.
Sir, actually, I don't want to ask, but yes, definitely, I would also like to add what Lima ma'am said. Like, since this is the first session on AI, so we actually got opportunity to develop some understanding about the technology because we don't have prior any information and knowledge about the technology. So I think sir's presentation really helped us to understand this. And just one thing is coming in my mind, sir, what I understood from your presentation, definitely this technology is going to be very expensive one. So is there, that is the reason India is not, in forefront of taking this technology, or there are some other challenges which India is facing?
First of all, this is not that much expensive, number one.
Okay,
Because
okay, sir.
if you really would like to collect the data of your own, if you would like to process them data in your own infrastructure, if you would like to run the model in your own infrastructure, and
Okay,
if you like to create that model with your employee, in that case it will be costly. But nowadays the
okay, sir.
development kind of scenario has been changed. Your data will be available on cloud. You can take it as a
Okay.
service. Your
Mhm.
processing model is already available with the giant. If you really implement it in Indian scenario, that is also possible. And if you make use of those resources in shareable mode, maybe in service mode, that will
Okay,
be not that much costly. Say, for example,
okay,
I said something, MOU with Microsoft, MOU with IBM. They have their own infrastructure like TensorFlow.
okay,
I mentioned that is there in the slide. So those are basically infrastructure from where you can deploy your model and get output. Similarly,
okay.
that means infrastructure is
Mhm.
not required. Only you have to pay some
Okay,
rental kind of thing.
okay,
Similarly, for preserving your data and processing it, you need not to purchase, you need not to invest huge amount on server, expensive server
okay.
and network management, etc.
Mhm.
Storage as a server is already available. When I will give the presentation on HDFS, that means your
Okay.
big data analytics part, I will tell you
Mhm.
something about how data can be managed in a shareable resource. And
Okay.
one
Okay.
positive thing I would like to mention, Jhaji, this is also another one interesting point. I missed it. Actually,
Okay.
in India, there is a suggestion from Niti Aayog. So already they formed one working group where the technology stack for AIML is there. Actually, actual target of that working group is to finalize the technology stack for AIML. And one of the working subgroup is standardization of interfaces and protocol. I am a member of that working group. Yesterday there was a meeting, so it's very positive. That means it is just started rolling in India, and India is really trying to do something in the area of AIML. That's why this framework, standardization, etc. is coming up.
So congratulations again to lead this
Okay.
AI. Congratulations for being part of this working group.
No, it's not a congratulation issue. I mean, Ganesh Arora sir is also there. I think Ganesh Arora sir presented yesterday, the day before yesterday.
Okay. So can we proceed for next session?